Hey, it's Trey, the ENTJ, Trey4L, and today I've got a video for you guys. I'm going to do a video over NP types, intuitive perceiving types. Basically, these types all have extroverted intuition as their either dominant or secondary function. And so the video is primarily focused on finding correlation between the types, so I'm going to do that. The first ones I want to talk about are the NTPs. NTPs are more logically oriented. They see the INTP and the INFP both perceive information the exact same way, but it's more logically oriented for the INTP, and the reason why is because they are trying to build a personal understanding of the world using their logic. While the INFP is trying to use their values. And the ENTPs and ENFPs are the same in that sense, because the ENTPs are trying to understand the world in a personal way, but the extrovert intuition is so broad. So I would say it's sort of like this. The INTP likes to do this. The INTP likes to confront a problem or understand something based on their personal experience and build a logical system based off that. And the scope is built using their personal experience. They build the scope and then they explore creative ideas with their extroverted intuition in the scope. They cannot leave the scope. It's very important. So, because then it's not them. Like they are not being logical. They are not fitting with that personal logical understanding of the world. The ENTPs don't build the scope first. They actually look around and they explore ideas, and then based off of all the ideas they see, they build a personal understanding. So basically an extroverted intuitive would be extremely creative all the time, dominant, and they just come up with all kinds of ideas and start relating things to other things, and they'd be going all over the place. And then when they kind of go back and kind of go into a more introverted state, more into themselves, that's when they will consider all the things they had seen and learned and sort of apply it to their personal understanding of the world. So basically exploring creativity and then making logical judgments based off of that. The INTP will make a logical personal judgment just like the ENTP will after they've explored the creative ideas first. But the INTP will first create a logical personal understanding, a logical truth, and then they will explore creative in-betweens. Okay. The INFP and ENFP, they do the same thing. This is very interesting. I've been thinking about this for a while. The INFP and ENFP do the same thing, but the INFP is very similar to the INTP, because for the INTP, they are exploring the logical truth from their personal experiences. The INFP is perceiving the information the same way that the INTP does, but it's more focused on their value-based judgment. So instead of making a judgment based off of their logical truth, the first thing, once they perceive that information, the first thing they do is make a judgment on it from their personal experience. And because of the depth of introverted feeling, as well as the depth of introverted thinking is just applying it to their deep, complex understanding of the world, and the personal understanding of the world. And the INFP is applying what they take in to their personal, complex, thorough understanding of the world through their values. So it's not a logical understanding of the world, it is a value-oriented understanding of the world. They are thinking about the way that they feel about this, the way that they have personally experienced it, what it is that they personally value, and they understand that. But the thing is, because of introverted feelings' extreme depth, it is much more accepting than the introverted thinking's extreme depth. Because the introverted feeler wants to understand very thoroughly your feelings. So they'll ask more questions, and they'll grab more information from you, and then they'll go like, oh wow, like I know exactly how you feel about this, and they'll have like this really deep connection between you two because they if you give them enough information, because they know exactly how you feel, even if it's not based on the things that they believe. It is interesting because for them, they are they want to understand on a deep level, and so once they get all that information, you can do that. Now, the introverted thinker is very similar, because for the introverted thinker, for the INTP, what they do is they build a logical understanding, and when people talk to them, their logic is flawed, and they want to butt in. Now, the INFP will do the same thing, but they tend to be not as because the INTPs are very like, oh, like you're against that, and the INFPs, I've seen them like that before, and okay, so I'm just gonna say that they're the same way because of symmetry. Not all of them are, but on a basic level, the INFP will do the same thing. They'll hear something and they'll be against it. But the thing is, if that person, the other person that was talking to the INFP, takes the time to explain all of it, then the INFP will understand all of their values and be able to understand on a personal level. The introverted thinker may have a whole bunch of logic about the way that the world works, but the thing is, if people can explain to the INTP their personal understanding of the world and their personal logic and what makes them believe that in its entirety, because the thing is, INTPs are very structured in their mind. So if you can say, well, you say that's flawed, but honestly, from my perspective, it isn't, because from all of this that I have personally experienced, this is the truth. So INTPs probably get along really well, because as long as the other INTP explains with all that information, then the other INTP can appreciate their logical structure in the same way the INFP could appreciate the other person's value system, because they know all of it now. The ENFP and ENTP are taking on more of a creative side and more of a creative vision of it all. So for them, they are more like, oh yeah, like look at what we've got here. It's like the world's full of possibilities. And then what they do is they look at every possibility and they ask themselves how they feel about it. Now the thing is, the extroverted intuitives, because they're in their dominant function like 90% of the time, what they're going to do is they're going to be like they don't apply every single possibility to themselves, but they do maybe on a subconscious level just a little bit. But mainly what they do is they just explore all kinds of possibilities, and then when they zone out or when they go into an introverted mindset or environment, the introverted function will kick into play, and they'll ask themselves about the things they had seen and how it applies to their personal self and their personal understanding. So just a really quick side note, for me, I have introverted intuition, so I understand the world in a logical way, but then I'll sit there and I'll go, when I'm alone or when I'm thinking, I'll be like, I'll be like, that person was doing this, but before they were doing this, and I'll kind of attach this situation to that situation and create a pattern. So next time, the first time I see this, I understand that this will happen from that. So in the same way, when the ENTP and ENFP go into their introverted state, they are applying all that creativity that they saw to their personal self. And so they're applying it to the way that they personally feel for the ENFP and the way that they personally understand the world in a logical format on the ENTP side. So the ENTPs would be more of the creative geniuses, and the ENFPs would be very creative as well, but they probably, because of that they don't have that thorough logic that TI does, they have TE. So they would probably have a more fluid understanding of the world, but they would not necessarily give their FI the time to completely understand the situation, but they would try to look at it from multiple perspectives. And so what I've seen that extroverted intuitives do, I see it when they talk, or at least ENFPs. I don't have a lot of ENTP friends, but the ENFPs will do this thing where it's like they hear what I said and they literally line up like a whole number of things that they think it might mean, and then they go, no, it's not these, and it's not these. It's got to be one of these 10. And then like they'll like pick one that they think looks the best, like it'll like light up or something, and they'll like pick that one, and then they'll be like, they'll just assume that's the truth. Now it can look like introverted intuition in a sense, because they're very stubborn once they, well, here's what I find extroverted intuition doing. It has a whole bunch of options or whatever, and then they narrow it down to like a select few, and then they pick one that they think is the best, and then when they speak it, now you might go, well, I mean, that's not what I meant this. And then they're thinking, well, I already knew that, because they did consider it. They did see all of them. They just went with one of them. So unless an extrovert, when I find like introverted thinking and introverted feeling being the prominent function in their stack, so INTPs and INFPs, I see what they tend to do is they tend to like look at a situation and go, okay, well, first I'll put a judgment on that. That eliminates these. And then what they'll do is they'll go through every single one of these extroverted intuitive ideas. While extroverted intuition feels a need, I guess, to pick one. And so they pick one, and then they get frustrated with themselves afterwards because they're like, no, I knew that. I knew that because I considered it in the first place. I just decided that it was this one instead. So I can see that, but I also see the INTPs and INFPs tend to eliminate a lot of them from their personal experience and then go, now I'll explain all the remaining ones to you. So that's how I see the difference between the INPs and the ENPs. So yeah, really these types are really trying to understand the world, and like one type places judgments after they consider everything, and then the other one places judgments first to eliminate a bunch of options, and then have one that they focus on, or a number of them that they explore afterwards. So they really are trying to see the world in a very, they're trying to understand the world. All these types are trying to understand the world because of their secondary function, but they're more fluid in the sense that they want to understand all the creative sides to it, and they want to understand it in different ways, and they want to understand, make connections between things. They want to be creative. So these types are, I think I covered it all. I don't really know how to end this video, actually. I really hope that all this information did something for you. I actually kept it under 15 minutes, and I think that is actually a freaking miracle. I think that this whole video was sort of a, I don't even remember what I said. Like, I know that I covered it. I don't remember what I said. I think it was mainly like a introverted intuitive like outburst. So I hope that you liked the video. I hope it like offered you something and you learned something. You should check out the Myers-Briggs Instagram page. It's Myers_Briggs. The Myers-Briggs channel. I have a Slack page, and I'll link you to that video as well. So I hope you guys have a great day. If you want to email me or something, if you have questions, you can do that, as well as check out, if you want to be typed in your personality type, you can do that, and I'll put that in the link as well. So, you know what? You guys have a great day. Appreciate the view. Ciao.